Hello, hello. It is time for another NFA Money Talk. And as you know, this is your place to get some deep dive, real raw conversations about all the things that happen as you build your business to a successful six-figure plus level, and all the ups and downs that you go through along the way. So on NFA, no fucking around money, we like to talk about things that typically people avoid talking about. So we're going to start right away with a juicy, fun question to get us going. So I will be introducing and sharing story after. First, let's just start with asking Michael and Tonya how a big money fear you experienced along the way. What's some big money thing that happened that you really had to take a second, third look at and face your money fears?
Well, it might be a time when I didn't have any.
That's pretty fearful, right? Yeah.
I want to be more pointed about that question. We actually did your quiz sometime back.
Cool.
And the one thing that I saw in the quiz, the one question you said, which one of these answers really makes you cringe, or like it makes your blood pressure rise or whatever. And it was the one more thing, right? One more thing. And that's because I'm much better at it today, delegation, right? And it's a matter of finding the right people to help in the business. But at some point, when you're an entrepreneur, usually in the very beginning, it is you, and you're trying to figure it all out, and you're trying to do everything to the best of your ability until you can afford to hire people on. And that was where I got stuck for the longest time. It was my fear was that if I bring in more money, then there's just going to be more jobs for me, right? And so that's kind of where I was stuck for a while.
Okay, so would you say it like more money equals too much responsibility?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, that's a big one. Did you experience that one, Michael?
Not quite. With your permission, I'd like to share a revelation rather than a fear that happened with me in business, if I could.
Awesome. Yeah, go for it.
That just a little bit. I knew this dude out when I was in California and in my office in Irvine, and I go to dinner with this guy, and we're eating, and I'm talking about my plans, and I'm talking about $30 million worth of plans. This has been about 10 years ago, about $30 million worth of plans, and he throws his fork down. Like all pissed off, just like throws his fork down. He goes, "You should be thinking 300 million." And he picks the fork up, goes all rude like, and then starts shoveling it. And I'm like, I was mad at first. I'm like, but then I realized he was right. I was like, okay, yeah. I mean, we need to be thinking much bigger. I was afraid of 30 million, and then he's yelling at me like I should be thinking 300 million. I was like, you know what? This guy actually, although he was rude about it, got my attention.
That's a big one. Okay, so these two combined, we think like more money equals more responsibility, which is going to cause us to think small about money, right? And cap it. And it's so amazing as you up level your money mindset, how you look back and you go, whoa, at this level, I thought this way, and here I think here, and it just starts to expand out and out and out to where you go like, oh, 300 million, like that's not that big of a deal. Whereas, let's say when I was on food stamps, that would have been like I can't even conceive of that amount of money. Yeah.
$3 would be great, right?
Yeah, right. So you really stretched your money mindset in huge ways.
A huge way, really.
Okay, so here's a fun question. What stretches it for you now? Like what amount causes you to be like, ooh, that's a big number?
Well, I'm still working on the 300.
Yeah. Okay.
But I definitely know now it did change because I'm a big, and Tonya's too, we're very big believers in focusing on what you want, right? Name it, claim it movement is real. We believe in Napoleon Hill. We do. I've seen evidence of this over and over and over again in my life. So, I mean, the numbers are billions now. They really are.
Yeah, cool.
So when I think about how the organizations will look 10 years, 15 years down the road, I'm thinking in billions with a B, not millions with an M. So, and I definitely see that as possible.
Expanding empire and belief system around what's possible to create and how much impact you can actually have.
Exactly.
Yes.
And also going back literally in my life and looking at how I started and my mindset back then, and going from like, my father stole my life savings when I was 16, and I had to start over again with, been saving and working my tail end off for the last 5 years, and then he runs off with the money, and I'm like, oh my God, and I got to start over again. But if you look at starting over at zero at 16 and where I am now, those billions are absolutely possible. Like just period. Like, and you can track that in your growth. And I dare say most of your listeners do the same thing. Whatever that scalability looks like, a decade or longer, then, you need to be looking into the future with those same formulas.
Yeah, to really give yourself that vision and perspective of what's possible. Jason Hansen's here and he's saying, I want more money so I can create more opportunities for people. So that's incredible. That. And, I think that's so beautiful to think about what Tonya was saying in terms of breaking through that money fear of that more money equals more responsibility. Will you say something about what Jason, connecting those links there between wanting more money for more impact and more opportunities for people, and then shifting your fear around that?
Yeah, because I've always thought that people will do far more for others that they care about than they will ever do for themselves. And so I think, Jason's right when he says create more opportunities for people, because when you think of somebody else, the natural giving part of us will do more for somebody else. And so it becomes a little more palatable when we think about it that way. It's like, well, I won't, I'll stop at nothing to do something for Michael that maybe I would just stop short of for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's so interesting to think about, what you're saying in terms of when we focus on who we're serving and how we're bringing impact versus the fear of that we don't have enough, or if we have too much, it'll be too much of a responsibility. And then we get to take it in this place of like, the more money, the more impact, the more money, the more people I can help, the more money, the more I get to serve, and just shifting the spotlight away from ourselves and our fears onto the people that we get to help. I think that's such a powerful way of shifting.
It sure is. And I can tell you that I've heard from hundreds of people in our program over the years that say, well, I want to help more people. It's not about the money for me. It's not about the money for me. And they insist a little bit too much, in my opinion, that it's not about the money for them.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized there's a money block there, right?
Yeah.
Because without that money, you can't help other people. You can't help yourself. And you've got to help yourself first before you can help other people. But I think that's one indication when there's a money block, they insist that it's not about the money.
Yeah, you're so right. You'll notice people will say that when they don't have the amount of money that they want to. Yeah, and it's a very interesting money block because it often people have the money is bad money block when they say that, because somehow they think it's bad to be wealthy and their unconscious belief system. So like, if I'm too wealthy, I'm not going to be a good person, or it's more righteous to be poor than to be rich type of thinking. And so they'll go, it's not about the money, it's about the service. Well, yes, absolutely. We're going to serve the world through what we bring to the table. And it can be about both, because I love Mark Twain has a quote. He says, the lack of money is the root of all evil.
Yes.
And I think that's so interesting to think about, because you think about wars and just fights and stress and, poverty as being a pretty awful reality. Like we go like, let's actually not, I think people get stuck with worshiping money, where they can go like, that's where we get money is the root of all evil. Instead, it's like, let's have money be an uplifting enhancement where it accentuates who we are. So I know you two are doing awesomeness in the world. So let's share what you two are doing to help and serve people, because I know that's how you've broken through 6 figures and are creating a very powerful business and impact in the world. So will you share what you do in your business?
Sure. So we help entrepreneurs differentiate themselves. And when you can differentiate yourself, when you can say, okay, I serve these people specifically, this is how I serve them, this is what qualifies me to serve them, this is how I make their life better, and this is what makes me different in doing so. When you have that, you can break through a lot of the things that hold you back, because a lot of the floundering out there in the world comes from not knowing your direction, really, and not knowing like what makes you different from everybody else in your industry who's also trying to do the same things you're trying to do. for the same people you're trying to do them for. So if you can't make yourself stand out, then that's going to inhibit you quite a bit. And so that's really what we do, is help you differentiate yourself with, by defining, developing, and displaying a strong personal brand.
Love it. Okay. This is so fun because to me, this is like, you're right. If you don't differentiate yourself, people don't really understand what you stand for. They might be confused, or they might just kind of pass you over. So what do you do to help people differentiate themselves? Like, give me just one practical strategy or tip that viewers can take away in terms of differentiating themselves. What's really important about that?
Well, you're going to have to, we have a 3D process that we use overall to help people differentiate themselves. But I think the number one thing is they have to do that. And the way we do it is define, develop, and display. So we define a point of differentiation or help our clients to do so if they don't know it already. We look at a lot of criteria to do that, over 77 different criteria to do that. Nice. But let's suffice it for ease to say that find a point of differentiation, define that and exactly what that is. And the way you start about that is looking at your ideal customer. And a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people in business, they just say, hey, I'm selling a widget and I want to find everybody in the world who buys the widget. They don't say, hey, who's looking for a widget and how can I learn all I can about that person's widget and then sell just that widget to those people. And that is the difference in being able to make your marketing have a return on investment versus just slinging it up against the wall and hoping that the people want the widget that you've got to sell, if that makes sense. So, you got to define that in our 3D process. It's the very first thing we do, because if you don't know that, you don't know who you're talking to, you don't know what to say to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So powerful. It's amazing to think how many business owners don't do that. And then they wonder why they have slow growth.
Yeah.
And it's actually, me too. In the past, it's like, and I think some of it comes from that money block of having this huge heart and wanting to serve everybody. And it's the money block of like, there's not enough. Meaning if I don't share with everybody, I'll miss out. So some FOMO, instead of going, wait, when I niche down and I get really crystal clear about who it is that I'm helping, then it's like an attractor magnet because I'm very clearly broadcasting who I work with and how I serve them.
Yes, it came, I've been a serial entrepreneur all my life, but I didn't really get to a growth pattern in a company until I met Tonya and she taught me the BrandFace principles. And then that focus is what really caught traction. I've always been climbing hills, but I was spinning the whole way and felt like I was spinning the whole way and couldn't tell you what worked. I just, I asked another guy one time, like, how much should I be spending on advertising out of this size company? And he said, all of it. How much money should I be spending? He said, all of it. I'm like, that's not an answer, right? But what he was saying was, you got to spend it all, because he was one of those guys that thought that was the way to do it. Like you just had to spend all of it. I hope some of it worked.
Yeah,
you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. That is not knowing where you're headed type of advertising and marketing. When you build a brand, you know exactly where you're going, exactly who you're talking to. And then all of a sudden, you're not just slipping up that hill, you're catching traction and you're doubling your ROI and you're doubling your, gross commission income or whatever it is that evaluates the growth of your company, right? Your growth revenue or whatever that might be. You catch that traction when you actually define what it is who it is you're talking to.
I love this. Okay. So usually I ask guests, what are your top 3 tips to help entrepreneurs get to 6 figures faster? And I'm thinking, let's break each of these down, because this is exactly it. Define, develop, display is the top 3 tips. Will you, Tonya, and actually this is for both of you, I would imagine that in that part you're talking about, I think this is important to hit upon, because I've seen entrepreneurs waste so much money marketing, like a lot of money gets wasted. And it's exactly what you're talking about. They think, I'll just throw money at it and hope something amazing happens. So in that defined state, is there a good question that you could ask to help people define themselves more easily?
Yes. So we actually have a method that we use called the STARE method, and it just really combines different things. It's different for different, the questions are pretty much the same, but the outcome's so different for each person because it's personal branding, right? You're not branding a pizza company. Like, So if we think about Pizza Hut, there's no face of the brand with Pizza Hut. It's a logo, right?
Yeah.
But if you're, talking about some other kind of business, where you're the face, like you are the face of your company, we need to know about you. So it's true that every human being has multiple points of differentiation. And so it's not so much what those are as which of those will attract the people that you want to attract. So it starts with, you've got to define who it is you want to attract specifically. Create that profile of that person, not for the purpose of boxing you in, but for the purpose of focusing your efforts. Because you don't want to spend time, money, and effort going after the wrong person. You'll do just what most people do. So it starts there. Define who you want to work with, and then look at yourself and say, okay, all of these unique things about me, these are the ways I'm different, both professionally and personally. Then you ask yourself, how do I connect with that person I'm trying to connect with? What things are important to them? What are some of their pet peeves? What are the things that they value? And then that will help you decide how to position yourself. So in that define phase, we look at ideal customer, points of differentiation, and we position that person, basically saying, here's your hook. Here's what you're going to be known for out in your industry. And so that's pretty simple in the define phase.
Awesome. Okay. So then step 2, you're talking about develop. So
Yep.
So what would you add there? I love, this is also something I think that's really interesting. And I'm trying to type at the same time as doing this. Let me write this real quick. Develop. There we go. Is thinking about having a system, like in that development stage. I'm sure you're going to talk about this somewhere. It's like, what is it that you bring to the table? What results do you get? How do you build a brand around that? Because that's really what people are coming to you for. They don't really care that much about you as much as they care about what you can do for them. Sure. So I'm excited to hear this part of your system.
Yeah, the develop part is where you take, after define, where you've got that point of differentiation, that shiny, that's 65 miles an hour. What is that component? It's not enough, right? It's just a book cover is what Tonya calls it. And I agree with that 100%. It's just a book cover that gets you to stop and pick that book up in the face of 1,000 other books at the bookstore, right? What makes you reach for that book? And when you start to develop, you develop the rest of those things. Your imagery, that would do that. Colors. This is where you do some work on logo. This is where that begins to be important. But it's more than that too. It's where you start to develop your story. Because we hold the truth that nobody does a business with a logo. They do business with a person. And like, I'm in a real estate business, so I can use this as an example. The National Association of Realtors did a survey, and they found out that 93% of everybody who uses an agent could care less who their broker is. They don't, some of them don't even know. It doesn't matter. They're doing business with Tonya, or they're doing business with Michael, or they're doing business with Dr. Amanda, right? So they care about a person. And so that's what in the development phase is where you begin to infuse the personal in the business to tell them why they want to do business with you. And you build out your bio, and you build out your, points of distinction. You build out your spotlight at a glance. You build out your elevator pitch, and then it continues to grow from there because you need imagery to match those words. We know that picture's worth 1,000 words. It has to be the right words. It has to be authentic to you, right? But this is where you're beginning to develop all of the rest of what creates a brand. A photo, a tagline, and a logo. That is not a brand at all. Those are 3 elements of a brand. You've got to have the rest of it. And the development phase is where we apply that formula to each one of our entrepreneurs to highlight them to the people who are trying to attract.
Yeah, that's so fun, because what I hear you saying, like in relation to where we're thinking, like, people don't care they care what's in it for them with results, and the way they know what that is through your story, right?
Yeah,
like
true.
You're sharing and you're showing, and like NFA Money Talks, it's like, oh, no fucking around money. Like, you want to know what are we talking about here? Let's dive deeper. I know we're talking about money. I know we're not fucking around. Like, let's dig into that. And then you
What's
hear
the worth
the
of me? Yeah.
story of it, right? And you're like,
Right.
oh, food stamps to 6 figures. No wonder she cares about money. And she can help me because she's been there and done that. And I see the work you do in the world. You get to help people do that. And it's such a fun unfolding of building a business. It's, I want to hear like what in this one, you know, the develop part, what do you discover? I mean, it's a discovery process with the people you're working with. So what are some of the fun things you discover in that process?
Well, I think that the thing that stands out to me the most is when the very first thing we do once we finish the define phase is we take a look at brand messaging, or as Michael said, the story. And because it all starts there, if you can get that story really dialed in your head, then for many people, for the very first time, they realize exactly their worth in this world, right? And so on the brand messaging reveal, so we'll interview those people, we'll take all their notes, our copywriters put together brand messaging, and then we get on a call with them and do a brand messaging reveal. There, I can tell you that over 90% of the time, there are tears shed on that brand messaging reveal. From grown men to confident women, doesn't really matter, because many of them will say, oh my gosh, I just want to be that person's friend. I like that person. And other people will say, is that me? You know, and they realize that for the first time ever, all the things they have accomplished and why they are on the path that they're on, didn't even realize that how they grew up or a person or an event in their life may have shaped where they are right now today. And it's an awakening. It really is. So that's the most beautiful part to me.
That is so beautiful. I mean, like my eyes were filling it, but there's just like thinking about that light bulb moment where like I bring value. Like that's so huge. And you help them articulate it in words, in words and brand and images and then like it embody it in themselves so that then they can attract the people their way because they've owned their power really.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
Really cool.
One of our quotes is, a great brand doesn't just change the way others see you, it changes the way you see yourself.
I love that.
And that changes everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a turning moment.
Really cool. Okay. Let's dig into number 3. So number 3 is to display.
Yes.
I would love to hear that step.
Okay, so imagine if you set up for this elaborate birthday party, right? And everything looks beautiful, but you forgot to send out the invitations. Okay, that would be like forgetting to display your awesome brand, right? So we've got the hook created. We know who it is we're trying to attract. We've got all the puzzle pieces that we call branding elements. Now we put them all together in graphic design, just infusing them throughout every place we market ourselves, period. Your website, your social media channels, any way that you want to market yourself, your business card, your videos, you name it, right? And you want to make sure that that's done 2 ways, correctly and consistently. So, and correctly is a big thing. You don't want to put different messages out different places. There are a lot of people that have a cover photo on Facebook that looks nothing like their cover photo on LinkedIn, that looks nothing like their cover photo on YouTube. And that's just a social media example alone, right?
Just alone.
So, and you've got to make sure to put that brand out there everywhere and everything you do. Never, ever, ever forget it. And you'd be amazed how many people will pull the brand all together. And this brand is sitting there looking beautiful, but it's on a shelf and they don't put it out everywhere. It's amazing. But once you do that, if you do that consistently, there is no doubt that you are going to be the most recognizable person in your industry and niche, period.
No doubt.
Yeah. You know, relating it to money blocks, people, I think it's, you know, you can see what you do in the world and then start branding yourself. But if you don't take this last step, the display and powerfully promote yourself, it's this money block around fear of sales. And we go like, oh, you know, people will either magically, I build it and they'll come, which isn't true. And also like ooh, I don't want to be a sleazy salesperson. I don't want to push this on people and that kind of thing. And so it's like, in that display part, I love how you're saying, it's like having a birthday party, having the invitation, but not putting it out there to invite anybody to the birthday party. We got to be promoting ourselves in our business. For everyone here, promote yourself shamelessly, joyfully, and love what you do, because the power that you bring to the table. I always tell people, it's like, imagine that you're water in the desert and that somebody out there is actually starving for what you have. And if you can help them and you're not promoting yourself, you're doing them a disservice, because you could, save them, help them, create their life and their business, their money making, all those things to be so much easier by sharing your services. So this part is really important. So I'm so glad it's in your system.
Important. Yeah. And all kind of clients in many, many different genres of business tell us, well, now I've got the confidence to tell people what I do, and they didn't before. And a lot of it was because, we teach them exactly how to say that. We teach them how to practice to say that. And they're proud. And they're proud to do it then. Okay, well, I understand, I need to do this. And it makes a big difference. But I love, like you said, because, fear of rejection, that's a block, and I try to teach my agents that I'm like, look, just because somebody says they don't need you right now, that doesn't mean they don't need you tomorrow or a month from now or 6 months from now or a year from now or 2 years from now. And the worst that you can do is offer an inspiration to somebody that might use somebody else, but what do you care? It's like 15 seconds out of your life to send them a text to say, hey, I was thinking about you.
Yeah.
It's literally that easy. It's not rejection. Oh, well, I called them and they didn't call me back. Well, they were busy. That happens all the time. Why would you assume that had something to do with you? Right. It had something to do with them. Right. They're busy. So.
Yeah. I think what you're saying is really important for people to hear, is that it's display, put yourself out there over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
It's not once. You just put it out there and hope it happens forever. It's constant, every day, continuously promoting yourself.
Yeah, we know that to be the fact, right? And most of the time, people do business between the 5th and the 8th contact, no matter what industry that is, between the 5th and the 8th. The problem with it is most salespeople quit at the 3rd.
Yeah.
Keep going. And, you don't have to be pushy about it. The good thing about a brand is you can put that out there to them without really being pushed, because a brand just speaks for who you are. I can reach out to somebody and just say, hey, I'm Michael, and I just hope you have a great day today. Thank you, Michael, the Abundant Life Broker. That's all I got to do. I don't have to tell them what I do. If they're interested in that, they're going to come back to me, or they already know what I'm doing, and they're just busy, and they'll contact me when they get a chance. So, and then that when you get that confirmation, when you call and they pick up and you're like, hey, it's Michael. Oh man, I'm so glad you stayed in touch with me. I mean, I've just now this last week been able to take a breath. I've been so busy. And when you hear that, then all of a sudden it floods back on you all those times that you just kept doing it, kept touching base with them. Okay.
Yeah.
And it works in every industry. It doesn't matter what kind of entrepreneur you are. Yeah. Those principles do not change.
Well, I think it's interesting how sometimes in business we forget to look at the way that we buy products and services.
Right.
We forget, it took us several times. It's not like you meet one person once, and especially in social media, if it's a cold market person, you don't see them once and then go buy several $1,000s or something from them, or even anything from them, really. Right. Even to buy a book on Amazon, we look at all the reviews. That's a $20 purchase. And so it's important to remember it's that constant contact, which is also why it's important to keep thinking, how do I build my brand over time, and how do I create, and whatever industry you're in my industry, we think of it as expert platform. You've got to start getting in front of people as much as possible so that you can expand the know, like, trust factor, so that they go oh, there's Dr. Amanda. I know exactly who she is. She shows up every week consistently, and I know what I'm going to get from her. And, I hear you saying that that's how you help people get themselves out there, because now they have the tools to articulate and say confidently, hey, here's who I am. Here's what I do. Come hang out with me. Let's work together.
And it does help. You mentioned one time, that time it takes to build a brand. And, we say, of course, a brand, as you build upon it over the years, gets better and better, and more people recognize you for what you're known for, et cetera. But But time is really not the success factor for a successful brand. It's really impressions. Okay. So let's just say you've got one person who's got an awesome brand, but they never put it out there. Well, 5 years from now, how much more business growth do you think they're going to have? Yet you have someone else who has a beautiful brand and it's not on the shelf. They're putting it out there everywhere. It's like every time they shake a hand and introduce themselves with their elevator pitch, every time they hand their business card with their sound bites on it, every time they're seen up posting on social media with part of their story, that is impression after impression after impression. And the sheer number of impressions, number of times someone is impressed by that brand, it causes that brand to grow. So time is not the success factor, it's impressions.
Yeah.
We only need one.
Right. Like impressions over time.
And impressions over time just multiply that.
It just exponentially grows that.
Exactly.
Because you might introduce yourself one time to one person and get a sale just like that. Right. And other people you might have to, do back to the regular formula, somewhere between 5 and 8 times before they are in a position where that's important to them or where they're ready to do that. So sometimes one impression is life changing and sometimes it takes 100. But either way,
do you see a difference in that? Like I always think about like cold versus warm market is going to be, it's like usually it's going to be the 5 to 8 for more cold market. When it's warm market, it's like, let's say you're at a networking event and now you know how to brand yourself and you know how to talk about it and you can have an hour conversation with someone. That's much more likely to close the deal because it's like having 5 to 8 impressions in an hour versus over time, like let's say in social media world where you're just meeting people cold.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Warm definitely makes a big difference. Endorsements, people that say, oh, I know them. They do great work. This is exactly what they do. But, back to the one impression can change your life. This actually just happened a couple of weeks ago. We're working with a coach who coaches women, a life coach and empowerment. She helps empower women. And she really wants to help military spouses. And so she saw this post in her military spouse Facebook group that says, hey, I'm looking for, a coach, like a life coach. And our client responded and she responded with her brand identifier, which is like a tagline or a slogan, that hook, if you will, and her elevator pitch in one sentence said who she helps and how she helps them. Right. Yeah. And when she did that, the next couple of days, she spent not only chatting with that person through Facebook Messenger, but meeting that person face to face. They were putting together an event, and now this is early in her coach career, by the way. She has her first opportunity. She was hired to come on stage to present to military spouses, and her speech will get sent to over 20,000 military spouses. That was a huge win for her, right? That's awesome. That was the first time that she used her elevator pitch and her brand identifier. One impression,
right? It's clarity in the impression.
It was the right impression.
And what really made that exciting for me was part of what the post was looking for the speaker was list references.
Right.
And our client never listed a reference, was never asked for a reference. And she was hired first interview. I like what you stand for. I want to talk to you. Done.
Yeah.
And it's one impression. So sometimes that's all it takes.
It's so incredible to me how brand identity is so powerful and knowing how to talk about it. And it's not something that comes naturally. It's just not for most people. Let's say there's a small percentage of people who are just like really natural salespeople. And then there's other people, it's like, it's a learned skill. So I want everyone here watching to know this is a learned skill. Like you can learn how to be an incredible promoter of your business where you never feel like you're selling because you're just sharing information and you're sharing what you bring to the table. And it sounds like Tonya and Michael are pros at this. We're going to give their information at the end, but I want to dive a little deeper into money stuff right now for you and your business development, because I know both of you are, you said, Michael, you've been a serial entrepreneur. I know, Tonya, you have a long-term trajectory in business as well. Right now, what would you say is your biggest next breakthrough money-wise in terms of money fears? Like what's something you two are currently playing with in the money world and breaking through those blocks?
I think growing more internationally for us and what that will mean, because we have an international team right now. We've got our team spans about 6 countries right now, and our clients span about 4 countries right now. So we've got the team in place to do it. It's that mindset of, okay, we've nailed it here, right? We've done a really good job here, and we still have growth, much growth yet to come in the United States. But we really want to take that next step to international. And I think that's going to be that next big breakthrough for us.
Okay. And is there anything you identify as like, this is something that we're facing, that, we're like that fear space where
Makes
you're like
nervous. Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's like that excitement. Even when people come into our program and they say, okay, I know I need to do this. I'm going to do this, but I need you to know I'm really nervous about this, right? That's how we feel, when it comes to branching out, more internationally. Yeah. It's just that next level in the mind. But really, people are people, and they can use personal branding everywhere in the world. So I think that's, for me, that's the next big step. I don't necessarily think there's anything holding us back. I think it's just we've just gotten to a place where we're ready to take a leap, right?
Yeah. The next
leap. To add to it, the pigtail to that, whenever you make big pushes, and you gamble bigger money to make bigger pushes. One of our fears, we're so customer service oriented, and we actually, Tonya and I have at least a hand in every one of the brands that we release. We've got an incredible team, but as you make a push for greater sales, you've got to have that team to come along too. But if you wait, being the chief operating officer of BrandFace, if you wait until you have the team, but you don't have the sales, you're paying for help that you don't need. If you have the sales and you don't have the talent yet, then you're always playing with a gap. Right.
Yeah.
And so, because we are so passionate about making sure that we over deliver, that, it has been a block in the past for me to really make a push for more customers when I'm not exactly sure how my team can handle the growth.
Yeah.
And so we're constantly playing with that, and we've gotten better and better at it over the years. Before, when we were just in a couple of states, and then when we were in 43 states, and then we were in another country, then we were in 2 other countries. And so, but it always works out. Like, if you're putting that positive attitude forward, if you are stepping forth in faith, that it is going to work out. It always does work out. And somehow we get these magical people that come on our team. And one of the things that me and Tonya are just so thankful for more than anything is the strength of our team. We just have incredible people around us, and they're just as passionate about helping people break through with their brand and achieve what they want as we are. And and that doesn't happen overnight. It's taken us a few years to get that right team. But I think that's our consistency in putting out, here's what we believe, here's what we stand for, here are our values. And that helps you attract the right team. See, a personal brand doesn't just help you attract the right customers as an entrepreneur. It helps you attract the right team members. It does.
And alliances and partnerships too.
Yeah, I love this, because really you're talking about delegation at the right time, and being willing to take the leap to expand, because you've got to expand your team to expand your company. And sometimes that feels like a financial leap, and then attracting the right people through clarifying who you are, and then powerfully projecting that into the universe. You attract the right people. I love that you said this, Michael. I'm going to post it on here. It always works out. Okay. That is such a powerful NFA money mindset. And, you get what you believe, right? So whatever you put out there is what you get back your way. And when you said that, like, it just came so out of your mouth so easily. It's like, it always works out. When you have that belief system, it always works out. When you have the belief system, like, everything's going to crap, it'll go to crap.
Sure.
So like, I love that you said that. And it just is it's so clear that that's where you two are going, and how you energetically align and help people. So love it.
We like to speak things into existence, as we say. Like, if you want it to happen, just speak it, because, speak it and believe it, and it will.
Yeah. That's awesome. You've given so many good tips here. What would you say is your number one money confidence tip for people watching?
I would say it's hard to invest in something that you don't believe in. Okay. And if you don't believe in yourself, it's hard to invest in yourself. And so it all starts with belief in yourself and belief in the direction you're headed in. Know your worth, know what you have to offer to the world, know how you're going to articulate that, because when that's put in place, there's no end to what you can do.
That's powerful. Okay, so believe in yourself, know your worth, and share your worth.
There you go.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm sure. Would you say the same? Do you have anything to add there, Michael?
Well, I would say be bold. You know, we say prosperity favors the bold here at BrandFace. So be bold. Be bolder than you've ever been or ever thought you could be, because looking back, it's the one thing I would have changed about my life. I would have been bolder sooner.
Would you?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. It's amazing when you start to be bold and you realize that it's actually so much more fun.
It is.
And so much easier, right?
Some people look at you and go, well, man, you've been bold enough. And I'm like, nah, you have no idea. You have no idea the stuff I've run from. And I still ran too, you know?
So true.
And now I would if I'd known what I know now. So
yeah, I love it. Those are great tips. You know, be bold. I when I was young, I don't think I necessarily thought of myself totally as being bold, but when I hear my friends talk about me, I'm like, oh, I was pretty bold. And then, you know, obviously my company name, I'm like, oh, that's pretty bold to do that.
That's bold.
You know, and your whole company is built around that, and I know your podcast is too. So it's like it's something that helps you love yourself more, and then it reflects back at you because you project yourself out boldly, and then people come back at you and reflect that, and they're like, you're bold, and you're like, oh, I am. Yeah, awesome. And it just keeps going in this amazing way. Yeah, it is. It's such a cool energetic alignment force. You know, it's like Jedi warrior magic, the bold,
exactly.
Be bold. Do you two have a good book recommendation for viewers?
I go back to, well, I have a bunch, but I'll go back to an old one as it relates to this topic. And it's an old book. It came out in, I believe, the 80s. It's Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within.
Oh, nice.
It was the first book I ever remember changing the way I think. And, you know, and what I remember from that book is he said, your life changes in a decision, right? It changes right now in one decision, you know. You step forward and you're in a different spot, right? And so that really shaped how I thought about a lot of things. And then the negative self-talk that, you know, we all have sometimes, just even in our own heads, that really helped me with that as well. So I think as it relates to this topic, I definitely recommend that if you haven't read it before.
Nice. Good one. Do you want to add one, Michael?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of The Alchemist by Paulo. Yeah. And helping you define your personal goal, your personal journey, and digging it out of the dirt if you're a little older and it's been buried, you know, because we tend to do that, fears and blocks. And so I really I read that book at least once a year.
Yeah, that's such a good one. I got it for Christmas a few years ago. And then my husband is so sweet. He recorded himself reading it to me. So when we were apart, I could hear that book with his voice.
That's awesome.
So
what a
cool.
gift.
That's awesome.
Wonderful.
I know. I got a good one.
I'll say. That's awesome.
Yes. Really great book. Okay. Awesome. We're wrapping it up here. So we'll share with everyone. And actually, I wanted to add this comment. We had, I think AC is asking if you two provide coaching. So that's where we're going right now, AC. Thanks for chiming in. And Jason says, share it as a gift. And he was talking about when we were talking about promoting ourselves and sharing and selling. And I just am noticing these comments.
I like that, Jason. I like where Jason's head is today.
Yes. Jason is a rock star. Shout out to Jason. Everyone go check him out. Okay.
And to answer AC's question, yes, we do. And you know, I have a feeling you're about to put the ball on the tee for me here.
Yes, there you go. Let's see. So, let me go back here. So, share podcasts where they can find you and how they would connect with you for coaching for getting brand help.
Sure. So first of all, you can go to brandfacestar.com and learn all about us. And there's a button there that you can, check, and you can tap a button and schedule a call with us. And that will give you, more information about us and what some of our own clients think about us too. Go hit that reviews page. And our podcast is called Be Bold Branding.
Be Bold Branding. And we didn't get that one added. Let's add that because it is an awesome podcast. They get to have me on there, and you two are awesome to do a show with on this end and that end. So it's been
back
that's
at you,
good to know.
Dr. Amanda.
Really fun to have you on. So great. So go check that out. And, in just lasting words, would you say, in order for people to work with you, do you do one-on-one, group?
Yeah. It's all one-on-one.
Okay.
Because personal branding is very personal, right?
Yeah.
We do have some, when you come into the program, we have some group meetings where, we can have collective minds and learn how to do some various different things with your brand, like market with your brand. But when it comes to building your brand, it's one-on-one.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been amazing. And you all know, for me, if you are looking for easy ways to make money faster, and when I say easy, it doesn't mean like magic pill overnight. It means simple path that you can follow step by step. Go to the 3-step money formula. Tonya and Michael were talking at the beginning about taking the money mindset quiz, and that is on the NFA money formula. So if you go there, you're going to get mindset quiz, how to rewrite your money story, and my new course is actually starting this week. So if you're interested in it, go to reprogramyourmoneymindsetnow.com, and you can reach it all through this link. So awesome stuff for up-leveling your mindset, helping you break through to the 6-7 figure mark, or get out of the stuck place where you are right now. So if you've plateaued, or if you feel like you're not making the money that you would expect to make in your business, go here, you'll get help. And thank you again for being on. And thank you all for being here and listening and commenting. We're here every week at noon, whether it's me solo or me with guests. I'm here for you, except for I'm moving in a few weeks, and you'll know it. You'll know I won't be here, but generally I'm here for you every Monday, noon, Mountain Standard Time, to bring really powerful conversations about money, business development, and then the area of expertise that my guests share, so that you can grow your business faster, break through whatever level you're at, and have a business that brings you joy and freedom. So until next time, NFA Money Making High Fives. Thank you, Tonya and Michael. And
Thank you, Dr. Amanda.
Bye, everyone. Have an incredible week.
Bye, guys.